says use the trapezoidal rule because when we set up the integral for arc length, well, first of all, we would have the derivative of sine is cosine, and then integrate over the given interval from 0 to pi. Then the formula for arc length is that it's the square root of 1 plus the derivative squared. So we'd have the square root of 1 plus cosine squared, which is pretty challenging. If it was 1 minus cosine squared, we might be able to do some trig identities. U substitution is not going to work because if you let u equal anything with a cosine, the du is going to have a sine x dx, and there is no sine out here. So instead, we're going to use the trapezoidal rule to make an estimate for this integral. So first of all, we need to calculate delta x. So that's going to be the length of the interval divided into 10 pieces. So that's going to be pi, which is 3.14, then divided by 10. You know what? I think it might be better to just go ahead and use pi over 10. We'll do that. Then we say, all right, take the interval that goes from 0 to pi, and we've broken this into 10 pieces. So this would be pi over 10, then pi over 2 pi over 10, and then 3 pi's over 10, etc., until you get over here to 9 pi's over 10. And then that, of course, would be 10 pi over 10. With the trapezoidal rule, we substitute all of these values into the function. All of these, in other words, everything except the first number and the last number, all of these need to be multiplied by 2. So what I'm going to do, rather than doing this by hand, I'm going to have the calculator add up all of these. I will then add in pi substituted in there and the 0 substituted, and it'll save some work. So on the calculator for this part, we would use sum the sequence, which has all of these need to be multiplied by 2. So it's going to be 2 times our radical, with x being the variable, and then starting at pi over 10 and going to 9 pi's over 10 in increments of pi over 10. And then all we have to do is substitute this into the function without a 2 in front, and substitute this in, and then we'll be nearly done. So we've got second list, move over to math, number 5, sum. Second list, move over to operations, number 5 is sequence. And then it's 2, the square root of 1 plus cosine of x being squared. And then I need to close the square root till at x goes from pi over 10 to 9 pi over 10 in increments of pi over 10. 2 parentheses at the end. So this much of it is 18.732. Now we need to substitute a pi and substitute a 0 without a 2 in front. So the square root of 1 plus cosine of 0. Well, actually, I don't really need a calculator for that, because cosine of 0 is 1. 1 squared is 1, so this is a radical 2. So then we need to add in a radical 2. And what about when you do this with pi? So cosine of pi, cosine graph looks like this. This is 2 pi. So cosine of pi is a negative 1. But then it's got to be squared, so it becomes a positive 1. So that means it's another square root of 2. So we have to add in 2 square root of 2's. So take the 18.732 and add in 2 square roots of 2. And now the total is up to 21.560. The only thing that's missing is at the very beginning of all of this, we're supposed to have delta x divided by 2. So we need the delta x, which is pi over 10, divided by 2, which actually means pi over 20. So I've got a 2156 that I need to multiply by pi over 20. Right? Because if this is pi over 10 and you divide that by 2, then to simplify you would need to multiply by a half so that these can cancel, and that's a pi over 20. So finally we need the 2156 multiplied by pi and divided by 20. And we get an arc length of 3.387.